I wanted to chat a little bit about the current market, the current state of the market, where we are, and the properties that are going into, that we're seeing price reductions. And we have a chart that we're going to put up on the screen if you're watching us on ronsiegelradio.tv, any of our socials, or the ABC News and Talk AM 1490 video feed. And it shows you the percentage of properties with recent price reductions. So the way this research is done by our friends over at Altos Research is they follow every single home on single-family residence on the market every single week. Glad they're doing it, and I'm not. But if you look at all the homes on the market right now, and you'll see there, if you're watching the chart under my bird's eye view, 33.3% of the properties have a price reduction of some sort on them. Now, we did peak out in 2018, the last time we had significant, but not as significant as now, interest rate increases. We got up to 37.2%. But at that 37.2, the slope of the chart was already going down. It had peaked out right there. We're still in a dramatic increase. Last week, we were at about 30%. Now we're at 33 1/3. What are we going to be at next week? Probably continuing to increase with price reductions. Now, I know that that's a traditional way of dealing if you're not getting your property sold. One of the agents that I know out of Laguna Beach made a comment on social media that she had a property in Laguna that had 80 families go through it. She had the same weekend, same day. In Corona, I think there was 6 people went through it. And in Anaheim Hills, nobody showed up. Same advertising spend, same everything. But what's that telling us? Might be telling us that, the affluent are still out there shopping, and those folks that are more moderate means, well, maybe they're not out there shopping. Or maybe they're a little more fearful than those that are affluent. Just, you can only speculate on these things. So what is our opportunity? What's our options? Well, we've got a couple of them. We've had our friend Wellington Pendel come in here, and we've talked about one of the solutions. And I'm going to share with you, some people will tell you that, no, it's not right, Ron. They don't do that, Ron. But here's the issue. What if you have $1 million property and you say, something, instead of taking that $15,000 or $20,000 or $30,000 or $50,000 price reduction, what if we take the buyer's agent commission and work with that? Now, I know the agents will all tell you, I don't look at commission when I go and sell houses or when I go and show houses. I know nobody ever looks at commission. Put a listing up there with $100 commission and they're not going to show it, I promise you. But they don't look at that. Yeah, right. But everyone will tell you,
it is what it is.
But we are human beings. We live in a capitalist society, all things being equal. Don't you think the agent's going to promote the property that is going to be, that's going to favor them? Let's talk about it. So we've got that $1 million property, and we just had one just recently, and we had a $995,000 property. They did a price reduction down to $925,000. I said, what if you did 1% or 1.5%, because the buyer's agent was going to see a commission of 2.5%. Fairly often right now, we're seeing 2.5% to 3% on the buyer's agent commission. Now, the vast majority of the properties, you and I, we're looking at properties online all the time. You want to know what properties are available in your price range? Go to rsrhomescout.com, rsrhomescout.com. You'll be able to see every property that's in the marketplace that's in your price range. Properties still sell through realtors. They're the ones that are still going to sell the property. We shop online, but we want to make sure we get great advice and great counsel as we go through that process. So what if we go into the notes, if you have your agent go into and don't tell me about the discount agents, because that's just stupid. Think about that. These guys that are advertising as a discount agent. If you want a discount agent, why pay the discount agent? Well, they'll tell you the MLS is what's going to sell it. Well, go online to your local MLS. I think you can put your property yourself on the MLS for $49. If you think that's all it's going to take to sell it, Why spend more money? I think you can do it. I think it's $49, but you can do it yourself online. And then you get absolutely no service or cut rate service or buy a la carte service, whatever you want. But let's go and do this from a marketing standpoint. Now, if you go to the agents and you say, you know something, this property, this $1 million property, we're going to put a special. The successful buyer's agent is going to get $40,000 for selling this property. Now, do you think that that's going to motivate buyer's agents to look in their sphere of influence to see who might be interested in buying this property? Of course it will. They're going to call everybody that they know of that may have an interest or may have a bunch of equity and say, you know something, this new property just came on the market. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. And I think you need to take a look at it. It fits your needs. It's got that 4 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms. It's got the white picket fence. It's got the pool. It's got the formal living room, the dining room, everything else. All right there. Think about that. $40,000. Do you think that'll motivate? Will that motivate agents to come out and show that property, to show your property? Of course it will. Now you're going to go from that agent in Anaheim Hills that had nobody showing it. Every agent in the marketplace is going to be going out there seeing which of their clients can buy it. More than that, they're going to be pushing, saying, hey, you know something, we better act real quick because we see, look at all these people that are here to look at this property. And maybe we need to waive some of the contingencies. If you really want this property, maybe you need to waive some of these contingencies. Think about this. These are all things that are going to happen, and they're happening all over the state, and it's happening at all price ranges. I've seen it all the way up to properties at $8 million. It's happening all over. So it's not a question of will it work. The question is, are you going to employ it? What's that mean? Think about that portion of it. It's a whole different world. Now, I'm going to give you a second option when we come back. So before the break, I was talking to you about price reductions, and we've got a chart showing you what has happened in price reductions year over year for the past several years. If you're watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv, any of our socials, or the ABC News and Talk video feed, you can actually see what it looks like going back to, if my eyes are somewhat decent, and they're not. It looks to me like the chart actually goes all the way back to 2016, showing what the slope and what the price properties with price reductions looks like. We're at 33.3% right now. In the last segment, I shared with you one option for avoiding that price reduction, or maybe taking the first step toward it. You may have to do a price reduction. I don't guarantee that that'll work, but I do guarantee that if you don't try it, it won't work. And you may end up having to reduce the price even more. So let's talk about reducing the price more. So we're going to take the exact same similar or example, and we're going to look at this and say, okay, we've got a property here, and I think we did the sample. I'm just going to pull it up on my screen so I can see it because my eyes are old. And again, if you're watching us on RonSiegelRadio.tv, any of our socials, or the ABC News and Talk video feed, Josh is showing this on the screen there as well. If you're driving, listening to us on radio, you may want to go back to RonSiegelRadio.com in the archives and take a look at the charts that we're showing, or we can actually send you a link to the chart. We have $1 million property. What if a buyer came in at a 20% down, or you're using 20% down? We're using hypotheticals here. So please don't tell me I know that the rate's higher or lower or better or worse. Just using hypotheticals to educate on a concept. Your numbers will vary. This is not an offer to loan. But we put in here an example. $1 million property, $800,000 loan amount, 6% interest, 6.618 is the APR. Payment is $59,4807. Cash to close, again in the hypothetical example, $219,572. Now, if you drop the price by $50,000 to $950,000, now the buyer is going to be looking at $760,000 as their loan amount. Interest rate didn't change because we did not do anything strategic. APR 6.17, Payment amount dropped to $56.36 because of that, the price change, and the cash to close dropped to $209,000. Now, what if we go and we say, okay, I'm not going to do that $50,000 price drop. I'm going to use that money for what I term payment assistance. Payment assistance. Well, you can use that same $50,000 that you were thinking about in that price drop. We can offer that to a buyer and say, with this payment assistance program, again, our hypothetical example, your interest rate could drop to 4.375 with a 5.001 APR. Now, if you remember, at the $1 million price before, using the market numbers, we were at $59.48 a month was our payment. But under this payment assistance program, we're going to drop the payment by $822 a month. It's going to go to 5.001. That means we're looking at a cash to close of $211,000, $8,000 less for the borrower. Think about that. Now, what does that equal to? If we were to try and figure this out and say, okay, how do I do it with price if I don't help this buyer with our payment assistance? How far would I have to lower the price to get to the same payment amount of $51,25.95? We'd have to drop the price $145,000. $145,000. So by offering this payment assistance, if it's marketed properly, we're going to be the equivalent of a $145,000 price drop. Now, I will share with you, this is a sophisticated tool, a sophisticated strategy. If it's not done correctly, it will trigger high price and predatory lending violations. You don't want that. We understand the way to get it written in the contract so that that does not happen, so you don't have those violations. We've already talked to the bank. We've already talked to the underwriters. They already know what we're doing as long as it's written properly in the contract. So what's that mean to you? You got to bring our lending team in early to work with the listing agent and the buyer's agents so they understand how this works. Because I don't know anybody that would rather say do a $145,000 drop over a $50,000 drop. And I know a lot of people that would prefer an $800 a month payment lower, a payment that's lowered by $800 a month, going from that $59.48 to $51.26. Wouldn't you? Just because you understand how to use the numbers to your benefit, just throwing that out there for you, and want to make sure that you are on the page with us with these different strategies before you start making a price reduction. I like the idea of giving you strategies and working with numbers and understanding the numbers so that you're not giving away as much money. What are buyers expecting? What do buyers need? Well, what the buyer really needs, the buyer is really working toward a payment, right? For the most part, very, very few of us are going to ever pay off that mortgage. We're going to move. We're going to go somewhere else. We're going to do something else. We're not going to go out there and write $1 million check. We're not going to keep the loan for 30 years. I know you are. I hear that a lot too. I'm that one, Ron. I'm going to keep it for 30 years. But we keep it for 5.2 as the average. And you know something what I did miss on this? So the bottom line there, I should go back here and tell you, because I did miss one key component here. And I need, Josh, if you'll scroll down on that screen there, if you've still got it up, the savings over 15 years in interest is almost $200,000. If you look at the list price to the payment assistance program, it's about $180,000, $190,000 in interest saved by following this. So not only is your payment less, your interest saved is less. You know, every way around this is better for all parties. The seller got more money up in cash, and the buyer has the lower payment, which they're looking for. You're listening to Ron Siegel Radio, discussing your real estate current events and the financial markets.